Coming up early next week, we're finally going to have the EPA's plans for controlling and regulating carbon emissions. We've been expecting this for a long time. Now, this is not going to be the beginning of the end necessarily for our carbon addiction in this country. They're going to be laying out how they plan to regulate carbon emissions. There will be a year-long period of public comment from those in the industry, those who are scientists who study carbon emissions, and then we'll finally have our actual regulations for carbon. Now, in advance of that, what are the Republicans going to do when the plan comes out, what their plans for regulating it are? We don't know exactly yet, but we do have a clip from John Boehner, and it doesn't look good for any sort of regulation. Let's listen to what he says about climate change.
I'm not qualified to debate the science over climate change, but I am astute enough to understand that every proposal that has come out of this administration to deal with climate change involves hurting our economy and killing American jobs.
And killing American children.
He's apparently going to be reasonable about this, I think. I like that he admits up front he is not qualified to debate the science. He apparently is not even qualified to read the science or to ask questions of scientists about the science. Yes. He is not interested in the science. He didn't go to science class. He's not qualified for pretty much anything at this point, but he is certainly going to make blanket statements about the effect it'll have on our economy.
Well, it's funny because we both start that, his statement about climate science, he and I both start what we say about it off the same way. I always say, I am not a climate scientist. Mm-hmm. I am in no position to debate climate science.
Yeah.
Whereas then I usually say, the debate has already taken place between climate scientists and they have all concluded. But what John Boehner says is, I'm not qualified to debate climate science, so we won't even consider it.
So I'll reject all the...
So I just reject it all, and we'll just talk about the economy. And this would be economic suicide to do this to our economy. So I choose actual suicide over an economic suicide. I'd rather have global warming kill us all first than to kill our economy.
Yeah. But here's the thing. If that was an actual choice, killing our economy versus killing our environment, and you chose killing our environment, okay, I disagree with that choice, but that's a rational choice. I mean, I could see why someone would make that choice, but that's a false choice.
False choice.
Yes. You don't have to kill our economy. This is the same bullshit that was always said throughout history from business interests who are already at the top, who don't want any change because they might be thrown off the top. Because as you know, chaos is a ladder.
Exactly. Some people like climbing that ladder.
That's right.
That's from a TV show I don't watch.
Exactly. Game of Thrones again.
Okay. He's wrong about so many different parts of it. The false choice in that it would destroy the economy when investing and developing renewable energy could very well be better for us in terms of creating jobs. In terms of the actual cost of our power, in some areas, I just saw a study last week showing that renewable energy in some areas of the country is now up to 20% less expensive than generating your electricity through coal. That's scary if you were a coal executive, but for the rest of it, it's certainly good news.
Yeah, but it's also bad for the coal miners, right? Because I guess they could transition to sun miners.
Yeah, it is bad for them. The only thing worse for them is the actual coal mining, I think.
You can't get trapped in a sun mine.
Exactly.
Right? Can you? I don't think so.
Yeah, look, is it going to hurt certain people? Absolutely. Is it going to help other people? Absolutely. Mm-hmm. So in the aggregate for society, is it a net gain or a net loss? It's not clear, but I would imagine over time it will be a net gain. Mm-hmm. But this is the exact same argument that we've heard throughout. So, back in, the 30s or 40s, Upton Sinclair wrote The Jungle and exposed the atrocities that are happening in our factories and our food processing plants and all of that. Yeah. And that led to, a huge swath of regulation. And the first thing that industry said was, oh my God, it's gonna cost jobs, it's gonna skyrocket prices, and it'll be economic calamity and apocalypse, and we're all gonna die starving and poor. Of course that didn't happen. And in the 70s, when our lakes were catching on fire, and you can breathe the air in LA, and we had to set up stations on every street corner in downtown to give oxygen to people who would pass out. And Nixon created the EPA, and they passed all the regulation through the Clean Air Act and the Clean Water Act. You know what it did? It cleaned up our air and it cleaned up our water. And you know what it did to the industries? They acted a little bit more responsibly because they're forced to do so. Mm-hmm. And you know what happened? Our economy didn't crash and burn. It was fine. It will be fine now. I mean, I would rather not live like the people in Beijing live right now, where they can't see anything or go outside because the air is so bad. And so the EPA needs to regulate, and we need to get a handle on this situation. And we can't be afraid of these fear-mongering idiots who claim that making any kind of change to the current situation would result in apocalypse for everyone.
Yeah. And we have had a little bit of progress. And I know this because we had the quote just this week that you just saw from John Boehner saying that he's not qualified and he's not going to debate the science. Back in 2009, let's see what his stance was on debating the science. He said, "George, the idea that carbon dioxide is a carcinogen that is harmful to our environment is almost comical. Every time we exhale carbon dioxide. Every cow in the world, you know, when they do what they do, you've got more carbon dioxide." So he's learned at least something.
So he was talking. I'm sorry.
No, keep going.
No, he was talking to George Snuffleupagus there, and I'll tell you what George Snuffleupagus did not say after he said that. It's like, so you're not up on the science on any of this?
No.
You're pretending that you don't get this? Why are you acting dumber than I know you are?
Yeah.
He didn't say any of that stuff.
Did
he
he
just
say,
went,
"Here
okay, well,
comes-
that's your point.
Here comes John Boehner with his talking points. Did he not say that? Yeah, and bear in mind, by the way, that this is House Majority Leader. He has been in Congress for 23 years. He has been the leader of his party in Congress for 6, 7, 8 years, and he doesn't know anything about the science. Obviously, this guy is not qualified to remain in government if one of the most important issues that's going to face our species in the next century wasn't interesting enough for him to look it up in the past more than 2 decades.